Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Mi channel. Finally, we will see Zoro's final sword, and now we will discover together how this will happen, since he will obtain the supreme grade cursed sword that is currently in the possession of Gorosei Nasjuro. In the world of One Piece, Roronoa Zoro's rise to the top of swordsman is not just a matter of skill, but of destiny. The three-sword swordsman has a clear and immeasurable dream to become the greatest swordsman in the world. To achieve this goal, Zoro has faced countless opponents, fought epic battles, and above all, honored the memory of his friend Kuina, who challenged him to surpass her and become the greatest. For Zoro, this quest goes far beyond simple competition. It involves sacrifice, difficult choices, and of course, the acquisition of powerful swords that symbolize his journey. One of Zoro's greatest obstacles could come from an unexpected, yet extremely powerful figure, Nasjuro, the bald Gorosei, one of the leaders of the world government. Nasjuro is not only a man of political power, but also a formidable swordsman, the wielder of a legendary, supreme-grade cursed sword. The question then arises, could Zoro, with his skill and ambition, defeat Nasjuro and take his sword? And more importantly, what would that mean for his destiny? Nasjuro, as a member of the Gorosei, stands among the most powerful and mysterious figures in One Piece. He is one of the leaders of the world government, an organization that throughout the story has been portrayed as oppressive and responsible for much of the injustice in the world. Although the Gorosei have been presented in a vague manner, each with their own secrets and intentions, we know they are a fundamental pillar in the functioning of the world government. What makes Nusjuro even more interesting is his ability as a swordsman. At first glance, he may seem to be just a political leader, but the sword he wields is a legendary supreme-grade weapon with potentially cursed power. In the world of One Piece, swords are not merely tools of combat. They carry meaning, history, and even curses. Nasjuro's cursed sword would be no different. It would have a dark past, perhaps with many lives lost and much blood spilled, making it a weapon with an extremely high price. However, one of the questions that arises is how far Nasjuro is willing to use this sword in a destructive way. So far, he has demonstrated considerable ability as both a fighter and a leader of the world government, but his true strength may be directly tied to the cursed sword he carries. This sword could be the key to his power, and possibly the main reason he is a threat on a global scale. If Zoro were destined to defeat him, he would have to face not only the Gorosei and his political power, but also the immense strength of this weapon. Zoro has always been driven by the idea that to become the greatest swordsman in the world, he must overcome any opponent who stands in his way. Throughout his journey, he has surrounded himself with powerful swords, from the Wado Ichimonji, which is tied to a promise from his childhood, to the Sandai Kitetsu, a cursed sword he obtained after facing danger head-on. Zoro never hesitates to take powerful swords when he sees that they can add something to his journey, something he can use to grow. However, Nasjuro's sword would be a true test of Zoro's skill, morality, and even his ambition. It would not be just another sword in his collection. Nasjuro's cursed sword would likely carry a much heavier burden, not only because of its destructive power, but also because of the consequences of possessing it. Zoro would need to be ready to face not only the Gorosei, but also the price of wielding such a weapon. Up to this point, Zoro has been a swordsman who chooses his weapons carefully. He does not seek blind power, but rather a connection with the swords he selects. Therefore, the possibility of taking Nasjuro's sword implies a major test of his own character. He would have to decide whether he truly wants to carry the weight of a cursed weapon, with all the implications that could bring to him and to his mission. Now, imagine the scenario. Zoro, on his journey with the Straw Hat Pirates, comes face to face with Nasjuro. He did not know that fighting the world government would lead him to confront one of its most powerful leaders. But the need to stop the government's forces and secure a future for pirates places him in direct conflict with this supreme-grade swordsman. Zoro and Nasjuro meet in an unprecedented battle, one that would be a true test of skill. Nasjuro, as a member of the Gorosei, would possess a wide range of combat techniques and abilities, including the merciless use of his cursed sword. Nasjuro's sword would likely have unique abilities. Perhaps it could cut through any defense or inflict psychosomatic damage on its wielder, given its cursed nature. On the other hand, Zoro, with his Santoryu technique, the three-sword style, would have to deal with the intensity of Nasjuro's sword, while also relying on his adaptability and quick learning. Zoro is a swordsman who learns from every fight, and this battle against such a formidable opponent would be a chance for him to raise his skill to an even higher level. He would likely use his strategic intelligence to understand Nasjuro's weaknesses while pushing the fight to a new level of intensity. The battle between Zoro and Nasjuro would be more than just a physical clash, it would be a clash of philosophies. Nasjuro, as a leader of the world government, could represent everything everything Zoro despises, a system that pursues power at any cost without regard for honor or the sacrifice of innocent lives. Zoro, on the other hand, represents the pursuit of strength and honor, but with a purer and more genuine vision of what it means to be a swordsman. This conflict of ideals would be one of the emotional forces driving this epic battle. If Zoro does in fact defeat Nasjuro, the question that follows is what he would do with the cursed sword. Taking Nasjuro's sword would not be a simple act, like acquiring a new powerful weapon. It would be a deeply symbolic decision. Zoro, who has always been cautious about the kind of power he seeks, would need to weigh the cost of this cursed sword. It would represent not only greater power, but also the acceptance of a burden that could eventually erode his spirit. Zoro is not someone who is easily corrupted by power, but Nasjuro's cursed sword could represent something more than a simple tool of destruction. It could be a symbol of how far Zoro is willing to go to achieve his goal. He might perhaps decide that this sword is not worthy of being wielded by someone like him, who values honor and ethics above all else. Or maybe he accepts the burden, but with full awareness that power always comes at a price. Zoro's decision about what to do with Nasjuro's sword would be crucial to his journey. It could become a symbol of his fight against the world government and a powerful weapon in his final battle. Or it could be rejected as a statement that to become the greatest swordsman, he does not need a cursed weapon, but rather his own strength and courage. With the victory secured, Zoro looks at Nasjuro's cursed sword. The blade, despite its beauty and power, seems to radiate a dark aura, as if it were an extension of the world government's own evil. Zoro has encountered cursed swords before, such as the Kitetsu, which he accepted not out of greed, but out of his belief that a true sword will never be dominated by a curse if the swordsman is stronger than it. However, Nasjuro's sword is something different. Zoro's decision will not be easy. He has always seen himself as someone willing to endure any hardship to reach his goal, but this sword represents something he has always rejected: the cost of violence without honor, the use of power at any price. For Zoro, accepting this sword could mean accepting the philosophy of the world government, which pursues power without limits, without empathy, and without ethics. On the other hand, Nasjuro's cursed sword is an extremely powerful weapon, capable of cutting down any enemy with ease, something that could make all the difference in battles against even greater threats, such as Blackbeard or even the world government itself. As a swordsman, Zoro knows that this sword could mean a decisive advantage in future battles, especially considering the level of enemies he and his companions still have to face. Deep down, Zoro knows that if he decides to take the sword, he will have to become the guardian of his own spirit, controlling the blade's power without allowing it to dominate him. This would be a great test for him. He would need to prove, once again, that the spirit of a true swordsman is stronger than any curse or temptation. As events continue to unfold, Zoro will keep walking his path toward the title of the greatest swordsman in the world, now with a deeper understanding of the true meaning of his quest. He has the strength, the skill, and above all, the character to become the greatest, not through cursed swords or excessive power, but through what he represents as a swordsman, a man who, in the face of adversity, remains true to his principles and never loses sight of his ultimate goal. Zoro does not allow himself to be corrupted, and that alone makes him worthy of carrying the title of the greatest swordsman in the world. That is Zoro's true power, not the sword in his hand, but the strength within him, which never wavers. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.